A panicked 911 call crackles over the police scanner. The voice, shrill and frantic. "There's an armed man on my street. He's threatening my life. Send help immediately." The dispatcher's calm voice barely registers as the woman continues, her voice rising. Cut to a dusty gravel road. A large red tractor rumbles as a rugged-looking man in work boots and a worn flannel wipes sweat from his brow. His name is Hank, a lifelong farmer, and he looks utterly bewildered as police cars speed toward him, sirens blaring, kicking up a cloud of dust. A voiceover drops in, laced with intrigue. What happens when an HOA Karen takes things too far? You won't believe how this one ends. Rewind a few hours. The morning sun casts a golden hue over Hank's farm, where rolling fields stretch far beyond the edges of the pristine suburban homes built just a few years ago. He's minding his business, tending to his crops, when the shrill voice of Karen Pierce, self-proclaimed president of the HOA, cuts through the calm. Karen stands at the property line, hands on her hips, dressed in perfectly pressed slacks and a pastel cardigan that screams suburban supremacy. Behind her, a small group of HOA board members look on, eager for drama. "Hank," Karen calls out, her voice tight with irritation. "We need to talk." Hank barely looks up. "Unless you're here to buy fresh eggs, I ain't got time." Karen's lips tighten. "This," she gestures dramatically toward his land, "is ruining our community's property values. We can't have chickens running around or those awful smells." Hank sets down his shovel and dusts off his hands. "Lady, my family's been farming here for 3 generations. Your HOA nonsense don't apply to me." Karen steps forward, a smug glint in her eye. "That's where you're wrong. This area is transitioning into a more civilized community. The board and I have decided we can't allow unsightly farms so close to our homes." Hank leans on his shovel, smirking. "Good luck with that." Karen's expression flickers with irritation before she plasters on a condescending smile. "I was hoping we could handle this amicably. If not, we have other ways of ensuring compliance." Hank chuckles, shaking his head. "You can't enforce HOA rules on land that ain't in your jurisdiction." Karen narrows her eyes, but says nothing. Instead, she turns on her heel and marches off, her group trailing behind. Hank watches them go, shaking his head. He's dealt with difficult people before. This isn't his first run-in with nosy suburbanites who don't understand how farms work. He assumes she'll get bored and move on. He couldn't be more wrong. The next morning, Hank wakes up to find his fence plastered with notices from the HOA. Bold letters declare that he is in violation of neighborhood beautification standards. A cease and desist letter is stuffed into his mailbox, accusing him of unauthorized livestock activities. Hank lets out a loud laugh as he rips the papers off his fence. These people must be out of their damn minds. That afternoon, as he loads hay into the back of his truck, a line of SUVs rolls up. Karen and a group of HOA board members step out, dressed as if they're about to host a garden club meeting rather than confront a farmer. A man in a stiff suit clears his throat. "Mr. Reynolds? As per the HOA's new bylaws, you are required to remove all livestock and cease agricultural activity within 30 days. Hank raises an eyebrow. "New bylaws? Ain't I not part of the HOA? Karen steps forward, a smug grin on her face. "We've expanded the HOA jurisdiction. You're now part of our community, whether you like it or not." Hank folds his arms. "That's not how property rights work." Karen's grin falters for just a moment before she regains her composure. "We have legal counsel who says otherwise." Hank shrugs. "Well, I got common sense, which says you got no authority over me." Karen's jaw clenches. "You'll regret this, Hank. Just wait." She turns on her heel, storming off. Hank watches her go, shaking his head. He figures she'll run out of steam soon enough. But that night, under the cover of darkness, Karen puts her next plan into action. At midnight, a group of landscapers arrive, hired by the HOA. They move fast, tearing out parts of Hank's crops, removing what they claim to be overgrown weeds. By the time Hank hears the commotion and rushes outside, half his field has been trampled, wheelbarrow tracks leading to piles of discarded plants near the road. Rage boils in Hank's chest as he storms toward them. His shotgun is in hand, not raised, just held casually the way a farmer would when checking his land. The landscapers freeze. "What in the hell do you think you're doing?" Hank growls. One of the men stammers, glancing toward Karen, who stands off to the side, arms crossed. Karen smirks. "Just making sure the community stays beautiful." "You're trespassing." Hank's voice is low and dangerous. Karen waves a dismissive hand. "Oh, please, This is all within the HOA's authority. That's when she sees it, the shotgun resting in Hank's hands. Her eyes widen, and a sickeningly triumphant look crosses her face. She whips out her phone and dials 911. Yes, hello? There's an armed man threatening my life. Hank blinks, incredulous. You have got to be kidding me. Karen takes a dramatic step back, raising her voice. He's waving a gun. Please send someone before he shoots me. Hank shakes his head in disbelief as he hears the distant wail of sirens. He looks down at the shotgun in his hands, realization dawning. This isn't just Karen playing HOA dictator. This is a setup. Moments later, the red and blue lights flood the dark road. Police cars skid to a stop. Officers jump out, taking defensive positions. A voice booms over a loudspeaker. Sir, drop the weapon. Hank sighs. Well, ain't this just great? Behind him, Karen is smirking. She thinks she's won. She has no idea what's coming next. The squad cars come to a screeching halt on the gravel road, red and blue lights flashing against the backdrop of Hank's farm. Officers take defensive positions, hands hovering over their holstered weapons. Sir, drop the weapon, one of them shouts. Hank exhales sharply, glancing at the shotgun still resting in his hands. He's held it thousands of times before, just a tool of the trade, no different from a shovel or a rake. But in this moment, with Karen's hysterical wailing in the background, he realizes how bad this looks. Slowly, carefully, he sets the shotgun down. I ain't threatening nobody, he says, his voice calm but firm. Karen, standing off to the side with a look of faux terror plastered on her face, clutches her chest. He pointed it at me. He was screaming, threatening to kill me. One of the officers glances at her, then at Hank. Sir, is that true? Hank scoffs. I was standing on my own damn property, holding my gun like any farmer would. She's lying. Another voice cuts through the night. I got it all on video. The small crowd of neighbors that had gathered on the edge of the road shifts, revealing a younger man with his phone held up. It's Mark, one of the newer homeowners, but not the HOA-obsessed type. He steps forward, holding out his phone to the nearest officer. The cop takes it, pressing play. Karen's dramatic shrieking continues in the background, but the video shows the truth. Hank never once pointed the gun at anyone. In fact, he barely moved before she started dialing 911. The officers exchanged glances. One of them sighs, rubbing his temple. Ma'am, are you sure you want to stick to this story? Karen's confidence wavers for a split second before she doubles down. That video doesn't show everything. He was threatening me before the camera started rolling. Hank folds his arms, watching the officers expectantly. He can tell they're starting to realize what's really going on here. The lead officer shakes his head. Ma'am, filing a false police report is a crime. Karen's face drains of color. What? No. I was just. You said he was threatening your life with a firearm. That's a serious accusation. And from what we see in this video, that doesn't seem to be the case. Karen's eyes dart around, searching for support, but the small crowd of neighbors has turned against her. Someone mutters, unbelievable. Another chuckles, shaking his head. Hank smirks. So, we done here? The officer nods. You're free to go. Karen lets out a strangled noise of frustration, but she knows she's lost this round. The police leave, and the crowd starts to disperse, but Hank knows this isn't over. Karen doesn't strike him as the type to admit defeat. If anything, this has probably made her even more determined. The next morning, his suspicions are confirmed. Hank wakes up to an official letter from the county zoning office, citing an anonymous complaint that he is violating environmental regulations. He snorts, shaking his head. Guess who? A few hours later, a county inspector pulls up in a white truck, the man looking apologetic. He steps out with a clipboard. Sorry about this, Mr. Reynolds, he says, adjusting his glasses. We got a complaint about your livestock and soil treatment methods. Hank smirks. Let me guess. Karen. The inspector sighs. I can't say for sure, but yeah, probably. They go through the inspection, and as expected, Hank is fully compliant. His farm is clean, his livestock healthy, his soil within regulations. The inspector leaves with a handshake and a warning. She's wasting your time and mine. If she keeps making false reports, we might have to take action against her. That should have been the end of it. But Karen, predictably, doesn't stop. Later that afternoon, Hank hears the roar of a bulldozer. He rushes outside to find a landscaping crew standing by his property line, trucks filled with mulch, bushes, and decorative trees. The foreman, a burly man in an orange vest, approaches him with a clipboard. We got an order to begin HOA-mandated beautification, he says. Says here we're authorized to alter the landscaping to align with neighborhood aesthetics. Hank stares at him. Who authorized that? The foreman glances at the clipboard. Karen Pierce, HOA president. Hank lets out a low chuckle. This woman really don't quit. The foreman shifts awkwardly. So, do we start or not? Hank steps forward, arms crossed. I'd love to see you try. A beat of silence passes. Then, the foreman clears his throat. Yeah, nah, we're not doing this. He turns back to his crew. Load it up, boys. We're out of here. Hank laughs as they drive off, but he knows Karen's next move won't be so easy to shut down. And sure enough, that night, it happens. Around 11 p.m., floodlights suddenly illuminate his property. The distant hum of a generator and the metallic clang of gates being unlatched echo through the air. Hank, already suspicious, grabs his flashlight and heads outside. At the edge of his land, a group of men in unmarked trucks is unloading animal transport cages. He marches over, anger simmering just beneath the surface. The hell do you think you're doing? One of the men, lean and mean-looking, shrugs. We're here to remove unauthorized livestock. Hank's fists clench. Who hired you? The man smirks. HOA contract. Karen Pierce. Hank lets out a slow breath, forcing himself to stay calm. This is private property. You're trespassing. You got 5 seconds to leave before I call the sheriff. The smirk doesn't fade. You won't call anyone. A clicking sound makes them all freeze. Hank's neighbor, a retired Marine named Tom, steps out from the shadows, a shotgun resting comfortably in his hands. Wrong, Tom says. He ain't calling anyone. I already did. A flicker of uncertainty crosses the man's face. Then, just in time, the distant wail of sirens breaks the silence. The men scramble, throwing their gear into their trucks and peeling out before the cops even arrive. Karen, watching from her window across the street, sees it all. She knows she's lost again. But this time, she's not just mad, she's desperate. And that's when she makes her biggest mistake yet. The roar of the trucks fades into the night as the last of the trespassers speed away, leaving behind a mess of scattered fencing and half-loaded animal transport cages. Hank stands at the edge of his property, fists clenched, chest rising and falling in slow, controlled breaths. Tom, his neighbor, keeps his shotgun loosely at his side, eyes trained on the empty road. Then, the flashing red and blue lights appear in the distance. Karen is watching from her front window, her hands trembling with rage. She can't believe it. Again, this backwoods farmer just won't roll over. She's thrown everything at him, and yet he still stands there like he owns the place. The squad cars pull up, and Hank lets out a sigh. He's getting real tired of seeing the cops on his land. A familiar officer steps out, Deputy Miller, the same one who responded to Karen's false gun report the night before. His eyes immediately go to Hank, then Tom, then to the abandoned cages still sitting in the dirt. Miller crosses his arms. You want to tell me what's going on here, Hank? Hank jerks a thumb toward Karen's house. Your favorite HOA president hired some goons to steal my livestock. Tom adds. They showed up unauthorized, no paperwork. Tried to load up Hank's animals. We warned them to leave. They ran before you got here. Miller nods, chewing on his lip, then turns to his partner. Get statements. Check for security footage. I want to know exactly who those guys were. Karen, realizing her plan has once again backfired, storms out of her house, silk robe flapping around her in the night breeze. This is an outrage. This man is a menace to our community, she screeches, pointing a manicured finger at Hank. Miller doesn't even look at her. Ma'am, did you authorize this? Karen lifts her chin defiantly. As the HOA president, I have every right to enforce community standards. His livestock is a blight, and we had every right to. Miller raises a hand, silencing her. Did you file a legal injunction? Get a court order? Any documentation at all? Karen sputters. The HOA bylaws. That's not how the law works, ma'am. Miller sighs, rubbing his temple. This is criminal trespassing and attempted theft. Karen's face goes pale. If this is completely out of proportion, Hank folds his arms. You called the cops on me last night over nothing. Now that your buddies are the ones breaking the law, suddenly it's an overreaction. Karen's mouth opens and closes like a fish gasping for air. Miller turns to Hank. Do you want to press charges? Karen lets out a panicked laugh. You can't be serious. It was just a misunderstanding. We can talk about this, right? Hank considers. He could let this go, keep proving her wrong until she eventually gives up. But the thing is, she won't stop. She's crossed the line from annoying to dangerous. He nods. Yeah, I want to press charges. Karen lets out a high-pitched shriek. You can't do this. Tom smirks. Sure can. You know, for someone who claims to love law and order, you sure do break a lot of laws. Miller gestures to another officer. Go ahead and detain Miss Pierce. We'll be taking her in for questioning. As cuffs click around her wrists, Karen thrashes. You can't do this to me. I am the HOA. The neighborhood has woken up at this point. Residents peek out of windows. Some stand on their porches, watching the drama unfold. A few even start filming. Karen, suddenly aware of the eyes and cameras on her, changes tactics. She slumps, going limp in the officer's grip. This is police brutality, she moans. I'm a victim. You're all harassing me. Miller rolls his eyes. You can explain it to the judge. As Karen is loaded into the back of the squad car, she turns to Hank, eyes filled with venom. I'll sue you for everything you have. Hank smirks. Good luck with that. The squad car doors slam shut. The moment Karen is driven away, the remaining HOA board members, who had been lurking nearby, start whispering amongst themselves. They look worried. One of them, an older man named Greg, steps forward. Hank, listen, He scratches the back of his head. We didn't know she was going to pull all this. I just thought we were enforcing HOA rules, not committing actual crimes. Hank raises an eyebrow. So you're telling me none of y'all were in on this? Greg hesitates, then shakes his head. Not to this level. And honestly, we're done with her. We need to vote her out before she gets the whole HOA in legal trouble. Hank chuckles. Bit late for that, don't you think? Greg sighs. Look, we'll drop any complaints against your farm. Make sure she never pulls this kind of stunt again. Just don't take the whole HOA down with her, okay? Hank studies the man for a moment. He doesn't trust HOAs in general, but Greg seems like someone who just got caught up in Karen's madness. He shrugs. That ain't up to me. But you might want to have a long talk with your neighbors about what kind of leadership you want. Greg nods solemnly and walks away. Tom claps Hank on the back. Well, that was entertaining. Want to grab a beer? Hank chuckles. Thought you'd never ask. As they head toward the house, a final thought crosses Hank's mind. Karen might be gone for now, but something tells him she's not the type to go down quietly. And he's right, because Karen has one last trick up her sleeve, and it's about to make things a whole lot worse. The night is quiet, the flashing lights of the police cars long gone, but Hank knows better than to believe this is over. Karen may have been hauled away in cuffs, but something tells him she isn't the kind to accept defeat. He isn't wrong. By the next morning, news of Karen's arrest has spread like wildfire. The entire neighborhood is buzzing. HOA members are whispering, debating whether to vote her out before she drags them down with her. But while some are distancing themselves, others, Karen's most loyal followers, are already plotting her return. And Karen? She's about to go nuclear. She's out of jail in under 24 hours. Her charges are serious, but they aren't enough to keep her locked up just yet. The moment she's free, she calls a neighborhood-wide emergency HOA meeting. She needs to do damage control, and fast. The meeting is held at the HOA clubhouse, a pristine, overly decorated building meant to exude authority. The room is packed, residents, board members, even a few people from outside the neighborhood who've heard about the chaos. Karen, dressed in a sharp blazer and wearing her best concerned community leader expression, steps up to the podium. The murmurs die down. She takes a slow breath, then begins. Friends, neighbors, I stand before you today as a victim of an egregious injustice. A few people nod, but most are just watching, waiting. I have been vilified, attacked, even arrested, all for doing my duty, for protecting our beautiful neighborhood from the destruction of farmland chaos. A murmur ripples through the crowd. We cannot let lawlessness take over our streets. Karen continues, raising her voice. This farmer, this outsider, is defying our rules, our values. And if we allow him to win, we set a precedent that anyone can do whatever they want with no consequences. Now, some people are nodding. A handful of die-hard HOA loyalists clap. Karen smirks internally. She's reeling them back in. She steps closer to the microphone, lowering her voice just enough to make it sound dramatic. But I have a solution. Silence. Everyone is listening. We will sue Hank Reynolds. Gasps, whispers, then uproar. Some people cheer, some boo. Others look completely dumbfounded. One of the HOA board members, Greg, the same man who spoke to Hank the night before, stands up, furious. This is insane, he snaps. Karen, you already called the cops on him twice, and both times you were the one breaking the law. Now you want to drag this entire community into a lawsuit. Karen's face darkens. I am protecting our neighborhood, Greg. Unlike you, I'm willing to do what's necessary. Greg scoffs. No, what's necessary is removing you from power before you bankrupt us all. A huge portion of the room erupts in agreement. Karen grits her teeth. This isn't going the way she planned. That's when a voice calls out from the back of the room. Hey Karen, you still going to explain what you did with all that HOA money? The room goes dead silent. Karen's expression freezes. The man who spoke, Mark, the young neighbor who recorded Hank's police encounter, steps forward holding up a stack of documents. Because, I was looking through the HOA's financial reports, Mark continues, and I found something real interesting. Karen's mask cracks. Mark waves the papers in the air. Turns out someone's been moving large sums of HOA funds into a personal account. Gasps, murmurs. Mark's eyes lock onto Karen. You want to explain that? Karen panics. This is a smear campaign, she hisses. You're lying. Mark grins. Cool. So you won't mind if we audit the HOA's financials, right? I mean, if you're innocent, you got nothing to worry about. Karen's face drains of color. Greg and the other board members immediately seize on this. Karen, Greg says, dead serious. I move for an immediate vote of no confidence in your leadership. I second it. Another member chimes in. Karen realizes what's happening. She's losing control. She slams her hands on the podium. You can't do this to me. I am the HOA. Greg ignores her. All in favor of removing Karen Pierce as HOA president, raise your hand. Nearly every single hand goes up. Karen stares in horror. You traitors, she shrieks. Greg turns back to her. Karen Pierce, effective immediately, you are no longer president of this HOA. The room erupts. Karen, shaking with rage, grabs her purse and storms out of the meeting. But she isn't done yet. Hank is back on his farm, enjoying a well-earned beer when he sees it. Karen, standing at the edge of his property, her face twisted with rage. In her hands, a gasoline canister. For a split second, Hank thinks she's lost her damn mind. She's muttering to herself, eyes wild, gripping the canister like it's her last chance at vengeance. Then she starts pouring gasoline on his crops. Hank drops his beer. Hey, he roars, sprinting toward her. Karen fumbles with a lighter. I'll burn it all. You think you can humiliate me? Take everything from me. Hank tackles her just as she flicks the lighter open. The two hit the dirt, Karen kicking and screaming. Within seconds, Tom and a few neighbors rush over, yanking Karen off Hank. One of them has already called the cops. By the time the squad cars arrive, Karen is sobbing hysterically, her hands tied behind her back with zip ties. Miller, the deputy, takes one look at the gasoline, the lighter, and the absolute insanity in Karen's eyes and shakes his head. This time, he mutters, you're not getting out so easy. They haul Karen into the back of the squad car for the second time in 2 days. And this time, she isn't coming back. The scent of gasoline still lingers in the air as the red and blue lights flash against the dark sky. Karen is shoved into the back of the squad car, her face twisted in a mix of rage and desperation. Deputy Miller slams the door shut and turns to Hank. You okay? Hank exhales slowly, dusting himself off. Yeah, I'm fine. Just didn't expect her to lose it this bad. Tom, standing nearby with his shotgun slung over his shoulder, chuckles. I don't know, Hank. I did say she was the type to go nuclear. Hank shakes his head. Yeah, but arson? She actually tried to burn my damn farm. Miller steps forward, rubbing his temple. Well, this time she's not walking away with just a slap on the wrist. Attempted arson, destruction of property, and trespassing. This is serious. Karen's muffled screams echo from inside the squad car. She's still fighting, still arguing, still in complete denial. You're all corrupt. You're setting me up. I was just defending my community. Miller ignores her and looks at Hank. You pressing charges? Hank lets out a slow breath. He doesn't even have to think about it. Damn right I am. Miller nods. Good. Because at this point, it's not just your case anymore. We ran her financials after that HOA meeting. Turns out she wasn't just a nightmare of a neighbor. She was embezzling tens of thousands from the HOA. Hank raises an eyebrow. That's so. Miller smirks. And that means this is no longer just a trespassing case. The county is coming after her now. For the first time since this mess started, Hank actually grins. The aftermath begins. By the next morning, the entire town knows. Karen's mugshot is plastered all over local news. The headline, HOA president arrested for attempted arson and embezzlement. It turns out Karen's reign of terror wasn't just about controlling Hank's farm. She had been skimming thousands of dollars from HOA fees for years. She used the money to fund her luxurious lifestyle, including expensive vacations, designer clothes, and private spa treatments. And now, it's all unraveling. The HOA board immediately calls an emergency meeting. With Karen officially removed from power, they scramble to figure out how much damage she's done. But it gets worse. Because some of the homeowners, the very people who had supported Karen, realized they might be liable for the mess she created. "We trusted her," Greg, the board member, mutters, looking over the financial reports. "We let her run things for too long without asking questions. And now, we're screwed." Lawsuits start flooding in. Residents demand their stolen money back. Some of them want the HOA dissolved completely. And Hank, he's just sitting back, enjoying the show. Karen's trial moves fast, with overwhelming evidence stacked against her, including security footage of her trying to burn Hank's farm, plus bank records proving the embezzlement. She doesn't stand a chance. Her lawyer tries everything, claims of mental distress, arguing that she was set up, even blaming Hank for provoking her. But the judge isn't buying any of it. In the end, Karen is found guilty on multiple charges, including attempted arson, criminal trespassing, filing a false police report, and embezzlement. The sentencing is brutal. Karen gets 7 years in prison, with mandatory restitution to the homeowners she stole from. When she hears the verdict, she loses it completely. She jumps up, screaming at the judge, the jury, Hank, everyone. "This is a conspiracy. I am the victim. I built that community. I made it what it is." The bailiff moves in, grabbing her by the arms as she thrashes wildly. "You're all traitors. You'll regret this. I'll be back." The courtroom doors slam shut behind her. Karen Pierce, former queen of the HOA, finished. With Karen gone, the HOA collapses. The remaining board members resign, unwilling to deal with the backlash. Some residents fight to keep it going, but it's no use. Too many people are demanding it be dissolved. A formal vote is held, and the final decision, HOA abolished. The neighborhood is finally free. And Hank, well, he comes out on top. With the HOA gone, nobody can tell him what to do anymore. He expands his farm, selling fresh produce directly to locals, including the same people who once supported Karen. His business booms. One day, Greg, formerly one of Karen's top supporters, stops by Hank's farm stand, looking awkward. Hank smirks. "Didn't think I'd see you here, Greg." Greg scratches his head. "Yeah, well, turns out we were kind of wrong about you. You're not the bad guy Karen made you out to be." Hank chuckles. "Took you long enough to figure that out." Greg sighs. "Can I at least buy some fresh eggs?" Hank smirks. "You sure you can afford them, with all those HOA fees missing?" Greg groans. "Okay, I deserve that one." They both laugh. Months later, Hank is going through his mail when he spots an envelope with no return address. He rips it open and pulls out a single sheet of paper. It's a handwritten letter from Karen. "Hank, I was wrong. I see that now. I lost everything. My home, my money, my reputation. And now I sit in a cell wondering how it all went so wrong. Maybe I deserve this. Maybe I took things too far. But I can't undo what I did. I just wanted you to know, I'm sorry. Karen." Hank stares at the letter for a long moment. Then, without a second thought, he crumples it up and tosses it into the fire. Some people can change, but Karen? She was never one of them. And that, my friends, is how in HOA Karen lost everything because she messed with the wrong farmer. Ever dealt with an entitled HOA nightmare? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more insane HOA drama. Trust me, you won't believe what's coming next.